When it comes time to print your images or prepare them for print, you can use some tools to soft proof or set up your print settings or simply save it in a format like PDF. So here we go. Well, I've got an image in here, and actually I'm going to go ahead and put this back to without all the color settings. But I've got this image in here, and I want to take a closer look at it in some elements of how it's going to print. So I'm going to use my view menu here. And first of all, I could try this proof setup. We often call this a soft proof because we're proofing it on screen as opposed to on paper. And I could choose one of these options in here to proof it. So for example, working CMY plates or RGB. Actually, I should have done the standard one. This is the more common one. I could go back to working CMYK, or I could even do a custom. And with custom, I'm just going to leave it here default. You might know what device you're using based on talking with your print shop, or you might have some other options in there. You could even load some devices. It's a good idea to just keep this relative feature here because it's going to do the basic analysis for you. But here's where it can be really interesting. If I choose to simulate paper color, I can get an idea of what this would look like when I actually put this on paper. You can see how it's a little bit duller, which is pretty common with inks. And then I can also choose simulate black ink, and you can see what it looks like with the actual ink colors in there. So, and it can give you some examples in there. I'm going to choose cancel. Another way to look at your colors in the view menu is you could use gamut warning. And the gamut warning is going to show you where any colors perhaps are out of gamut. So for example, if I double click and I switch to my color picker, when I'm using a color out here that's kind of muted, I can get a warning that this color, this cube, means that this color is out of the RGB or out of the web safe gamut. And I can click on it to set it in place. I can come here to the bright, intense color, and I can see that this color is perhaps not appropriate for print, and I can select it. So a gamut is just really a range of colors appropriate for a color model and a color workspace. I'm going to choose cancel here. But where I'm seeing that gray area is where I'm going to see some warning specifically of colors that aren't going to print exactly the way I'm viewing them. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the gamut warning. Now, an interesting thing you can do for some correction is you can come up here to the select menu and choose color range. And with color range, you can actually choose the out of gamut range, and it's selecting those items right here. I'm going to go ahead and choose OK, and it makes a selection of those pieces. And then I can actually use something like a color mat here, for example, hue and saturation. I'll go ahead and do that. And I can kind of move the sliders. Now the hue, I'm going to move that until it looks kind of neutral to me. I don't want to go too much, obviously, but I'm kind of moving it so it looks sort of neutral. And then the saturation, I'm going to move that so that it looks realistic, not too much, but I'm just trying to make it look natural. And this one it's so subtle, it's kind of hard to see, but you can make some shifts in there. And usually you're just going to leave the lightness alone. Don't even worry about that. And turn that eyeball there. Go ahead and collapse that menu. And it's hard to see, but there's a little bit of a shiftness. And if you were to test your work, you could even come in and try it out later after you flatten those images. But this is an idea of a way to get a closer look. And you could even come here to layer and flatten the image. And so it puts those colors together. Let's just see what it does with gamut warning. It looks like I need to do a better, closer look about those images. Now, once you have your soft proof in place, you can come over here to your file menu and you could actually start printing your image. And when you're printing, there's some different setups that can be used. Here's one with color management. It's giving a note to the printer. In fact, if you hover over that, it's telling us that the printer is the machine or the person, the service is going to manage the color settings, and because there's a profile installed, that the profile will translate the colors from the device we're working on with the device that's going to be used for output. We could also use something like Photoshop manages color, and in that scenario, as Photoshop's actually going to determine what colors should be used. But this is a good one to work with. And because it's the default, that's another good reason to use it. But you can always talk with your print vendor to find out if there are some settings you should use. And you can also customize things like position and printing mark and functions. However, most of these features should not be changed. These are really intended to be used by the print shop, or they're automatically set up by the printer. And by changing them, you're actually overriding some of those automatic features. So usually I just leave these settings alone. And a lot of times I'm not really printing my Photoshop images per se. I'm actually putting them into another format like InDesign, and then InDesign is what we'll be printing. So I could keep my photo as a native Photoshop file, or I could save it as a PDF. I'll go ahead in here, and I always have a hard time finding that Photoshop PDF, even though it's right there. But there's my Photoshop PDF, and I can save that. Again, I have some options about my profile. I'm going to use the defaults in here. And when you save to PDF, you have different presets that you can use. And the one called Press Quality is actually the PDF, here we go, Press Quality, is actually a setting that is really good for images that are intended for print. You might want to use something like high quality print, but actually Press Quality is going to be a little bit better than high quality. And all these options with the X's in there, the PDF X, those are special standards of the Press Quality. And talk to your print shop, but some of them are going to be helpful when you're printing something. Not only does it allow you to have some better options for printing and some better accuracy, but they're also great for archiving purposes because it means that you'll be able to open up the PDF years to come. There is another option here called smallest file size, and this would be a great way of creating a PDF version of your image that you're going to be sharing online through a network or through a website, for example. But if I go here to Press Quality, then Acrobat settings are going to be automatically chosen for me, even though I could go in and make some different choices. But I tend to use the defaults, and then I simply save for PDF, and that information gets saved for me. So you can proof your images, a soft proof online, or you could print out those images to get a better idea of what's going on, or you can simply save your images in a Photoshop or a PDF format so that you'll be able to use them in other tools.